Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating legal battle out of Idaho. It's a story about one homeowner who, facing foreclosure, built what you could call a paper fortress to take on a venture capital firm. And he actually landed a major victory in the state's highest court.
So let's get right into it. Picture this. You've been foreclosed on, you've been evicted, your stuff is on the curb. For most people, that feels like the end of the road. But this case brings up a wild question. What if the legal fight for your home isn't over, even after you've been kicked out? It's a scenario that shines a big, bright light on a pretty devastating trap in the foreclosure process.
To really get what's going on here, you first need to understand this legal paradox, this catch-22 that so many homeowners get caught in. It's a procedural trap that can completely shut down your case before you even get a chance to argue the real issues. And the key to this whole trap is one little legal word: moot. An issue is moot if a court's ruling wouldn't change anything. You know, like arguing over who gets the last piece of cake after it's already been eaten. Well, lenders have turned this concept into a weapon. They argue that once you're evicted, any appeal you filed is now moot. Why? Because you're already out of the house. As far as they're concerned, the fight is over.
So here's how the trap works, step by step. A homeowner gets foreclosed on and, believing it's wrongful, they file an appeal. But that appeal process is slow. In the meantime, the lender or the new owner rushes to evict them. The second the homeowner is physically removed, the lender runs to the appeals court and says, "Hey, see, they're gone. There's nothing to decide here anymore. The case is moot." It's a strategy to win by running out the clock.
And just so you know, this isn't some hidden, secret strategy. It's said right out in the open. This quote is from the actual court transcript of this Idaho case. The lawyer for the new owners basically laid out their entire game plan. It shows you just how intentional this tactic is. It's not just a legal argument. It's a direct assault on a person's right to have their appeal heard at all.
So how in the world do you fight back against the system that's designed to shut you down? Well, the homeowner here, Jeremy Bass, came up with a really innovative counter strategy. He figured if the whole game was about physical possession, then he needed to build a fortress of legal and financial claims around the property, a fortress that an eviction alone couldn't tear down.
He actually gave it a name: legal persistence. The whole idea was to create this complex web of legal ties to the property. That way, even if he was physically removed, there would still be so many other unresolved issues that a court couldn't just brush it all aside and say the case was moot. And this is how he did it. It wasn't some magic trick. He used standard, everyday legal tools. He had a real lease with a tenant, which immediately brought federal tenant protection laws into play. He created a totally separate agreement for his personal belongings still in the house. Each one of these things created a new, distinct legal problem that had to be solved, building, as the source material calls it, a paper fortress.
And Bass himself said it best in an affidavit. His goal wasn't to block the legal process. It was actually the opposite. It was to force the system to follow all of its own rules, completely and properly. He was making sure they couldn't just take a shortcut by focusing only on the eviction.
So the paper fortress was built. And then, just as expected, Bass was evicted, and the new owners immediately filed a motion to dismiss his appeal as moot. This was the moment of truth. How was the Idaho Supreme Court going to react to this?
The court's decision was simple, and it was a huge deal. They denied the motion. His appeal was preserved. It meant that even though he was no longer in the house, his fight wasn't over. The paper fortress had held up.
Now, this decision signals a really important potential shift in perspective. Lenders have always pushed the idea that once someone is evicted, the story's over. But the court's signal here is that, wait a minute, substantive rights, things like financial claims, might still be very much alive regardless of who has the keys. And speaking of live financial claims, there was a big one here: money. Bass argued that he had around $300,000 of home equity at stake that was just gone. You can't just call that moot. That is a massive, unresolved financial dispute, and it proves that the fight was about way more than just physical possession of the property. So what does this all mean for the bigger picture? Well, this ruling isn't just about one case. It has the potential to become a whole new playbook for homeowners who find themselves caught in this foreclosure trap, especially in Idaho. The source material we're drawing from for this explainer calls it exactly that: a crucial procedural victory. By keeping the appeal alive, the court protected the fundamental right to what's called meaningful judicial review. In plain English, it means that getting evicted shouldn't strip you of your day in court.
So let's break down the key takeaways here. Number one, eviction is not an automatic kill switch for a foreclosure appeal. Number two,
Proactive, strategic legal planning, like the paper fortress, can genuinely protect a homeowner's rights. And number 3, major financial claims, like for lost equity, can be the very thing that keeps a case live and forces a court to look at the real underlying problems.
Now, the underlying case is still making its way through the courts, but this initial victory leaves us with a really provocative question. By cleverly navigating and outsmarting a common procedural trap, has one homeowner just changed the rules of the foreclosure game? It's possible this case could become a blueprint for fighting back, proving that the fight for your home isn't necessarily over when the locks are changed.